Hi, Rhiannon.
Hi, Andy.
Thank you so much for agreeing to this interview with me today. Can I ask you to start by introducing yourself, please?
Of course. I'm Rhiannon King, or Archdeacon Rhiannon. And for the last year, I've been the Archdeacon of Ipswich, and I also direct a project called Inspiring Ipswich.
And hopefully you'll mention both things in the interview. That'd be good. Thank you. So I've got 4 questions for you, and the first one is one I will ask everyone, and it's partly about you and about your team. So how are you looking after yourself during the pandemic, and how are you supporting your team?
A good question. Looking after myself, I have been eating more healthily than usual. I have been going on a walk most days, which I didn't used to do, so I've been really enjoying that. And I can just see out of the corner of my eye our badminton court. We have just set up a badminton court since lockdown. So in lunch times when it's not too windy, I enjoy a bit of badminton with my husband. I've got on my bike a couple of times, and I've even put my trainers on once. But I would love to put my trainers on more often. So I've been doing things like that. But perhaps the thing that's helped me most is I worked out quite early on that I really needed to know that I've got some holidays to look forward to. So I've worked out a little plan of between 3 and 6 days off every month. So I've been doing that since April, and that's meant that that's kept me sane, and has also given me something to look forward to each month. So personally, having that has been brilliant. In terms of looking after my team, I've got lots of different types of team, but I'll tell you about the team I work with mostly. There's between 6 and 10 of us, and we start every day together. We pray for each other every morning, and that's been really good. And then once a week we have a team meeting, and we always start that team meeting with a check-in time. So I ask everyone, can you give me a score, 0 to 10, of how you're feeling at the moment? And then we've been doing that for years, so everyone's very used to that now. And that's been really helpful, because if you know that you're an 8, a 9 or a 10, then you're in a good place to encourage others, particularly those who are a 2 or a 3. So that's been a really good way in which we've been able to support each other, just by finding out how we really are.
Wow, that's impressive that you had something like that in place in advance of the pandemic that we find ourselves in. And it's really good to know that you've been looking after yourself as well. Even though there was only the one time that you put on your trainers.
I know, I need to do better there. I need to do better.
So my second question is this. So your Christian faith clearly means a lot to you. What difference does it make to looking after yourself and others?
Okay. I hope this doesn't sound big-headed, but I think it all starts with the fact that I really believe I matter. I think I am of significance, and I believe that's true of everyone, but I've felt that strongly ever since I was about 13. I've felt sort of overwhelmed by God's love. So sometimes it's the love of other people around me, but mostly it's just that deep sense of being loved by God all the time. And I think having that through my life, as I said, since early teenage years, that's just really helped in terms of my mental health. Also, the Christian faith has lots of really good rhythms to do with having time out every day, where we still pray, time out every week. So I make sure that I have what I might call a Sabbath break every week, where I do no work. I always look forward to that. Every 6 years we have or try and have some sort of sabbatical. So there are lots of different rhythms that punctuate life, and I think those things have been really helpful. Church is a huge help as well to Christians, because you're like part of this big family. And for me, in my role, I'm part of lots of little families across Ipswich, and I just love that, and that's just really life-giving. And also, obviously, there's something in the Christian faith which lots of other people share as well, which is about putting other people first. And I think that that stops the focus being, on ourselves. So we're constantly trying to think about how can we serve others? How can we reach out to our neighbours and the stranger in the street and, people we don't know so well. So I think that sort of balance of things has been really helpful for me.
Wow. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but the first thing that you said, does that sort of, is that about spiritual security?
Yeah.
And then you talked about life and balance between work and other demands on us, and you finished on thinking of others and looking after others as well.
Yeah, I think for me, everything comes out of that sense of being loved by God, and it's of that overflow that I have any energy that I do have to love others comes from that love that I feel is being poured into me.
Thank you. And of course, going back to your first answer, if you're not looking after yourself, and if you don't respect yourself, then it makes that very difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. My third question is this. So what difference do you think being a member of a church makes to a person's well-being?
In my experience, it can make a huge difference. I think being a member of a church, not every church might feel like this, and not all the time, and I recognise that, but it gives you a sense of belonging. As I said earlier, about being part of a family, and often it's an all-age family. I love when I go to church that I can see children and teenagers and young adults, people my age and people a lot older, and there aren't many places that you can weekly gather and just be part of that sort of that sort of beautiful community. So I think that sense of belonging is key, but also a sense of purpose that, we're doing stuff together. And also this sense of challenge. I mean, I think a good church will love you in a good way, which will include times of tough love. And so I look to church as well for people to help me, to stretch me and to challenge me when I'm going the wrong way, and to encourage me. So I feel like it can have a huge benefit to your well-being. I grew up in a little village church, quite small, but from, when I was 13 or 14, I just remember these families just adopting me as a teenager. And I don't think many of my school friends had the same, but I was adopted and I was taken on all sorts of holidays with some of those people. I would go round to their homes for meals, and it was just the best experience possible. And I think ever since I had that experience as a teenager, I've just loved the church and just wanted to serve it and be part of it. And I've just gained so much from it. So I just kind of want everyone else to have the joy of that.
How has the pandemic affected the way that the church has supported people's well-being, and how has the church adapted to that? Can I ask that?
Of course, great questions. To start off with, we were thinking, oh gosh, how do we respond to this? Because our doors are locked. But the most amazing things have happened. Churches, certainly throughout Ipswich and Suffolk and far beyond, have acted in lots of ways with real creativity. So lots of people have learned how to Zoom and how to create videos. And what we found is that there are far more people interested than we ever realised in finding out about faith, exploring faith and wanting to be together. So one of our churches in Ipswich used to have about 200 to 300 people on a Sunday morning. And during lockdown, they've had 700 to 800. So we found that, nationally, apparently people used to Google how to pray. And during lockdown, that's increased by 50%. So there's a lot of people starting to think spiritually about all sorts of things. So there's partly that sort of online thing, but also churches have been looking after people in their parishes, their neighbourhoods, through lots of phoning around people, helping with shopping trips, contributing to food banks, doing food drops, all sorts of things. So because I'm in the position I'm in, I get to hear all these stories and I just love it. One of our vicars is he's basically doing what I call a drugs run around his parish, but what he's actually doing is he's helping the local pharmacy to deliver medicines to those who can't get out from home. So every afternoon he goes with his rucksack and mask and is distributing medicines around the place. There's lots of beautiful things like that.
That's really good to hear. I mean, on the saddest end of the scale, there's been a lot more bereavement. So how has the church been able to support people when they haven't been able to, for example, be at a funeral in the numbers that they would have been in the past?
I mean, firstly, that's been incredibly difficult. One of my friends, his father's funeral is today, and he was saying that they would expect 600, 700 people at that. And of course, he's got 30. So I think it's very difficult. What we're planning is memorial services for when we come out fully out of lockdown, so that we can enable families to grieve properly in bigger services. But of course, we don't know quite when they can be. But we've also been sending out, cards and resources. So, for example, if someone has a small funeral in a church and lots of people can't come, then we've got some resources that we can give to those people to help them go through the service and grieve, even if they can't be there. And of course, lots are live streamed as well.
Oh, that's really good to know. Thank you. We're down to the last question now. So this is about the future. What learning and maybe challenges also do you think will come from this outbreak?
Okay. You've got to hope, haven't you? I think sometimes as human beings we're quite fickle. So I don't know how much of this change will last, but I kind of think there's been a wake-up call for all of us in terms of our physical health, just the importance of it, the importance of exercise, the importance of eating well. I mean, I feel personally challenged. I need to lose a stone or two, how do we go about that? And so I feel there's a real challenge there, but also there's a real wake-up call about our mental health, about how important it is to know our neighbours, to have family and friends around, to be part of communities. I mean, I've got to know my neighbours here so much better because of clapping for the NHS every week and things like that. And so it's really brought people together. And I hope that will be something that stays. And then I guess as well spiritually for people who have a faith, it's been a real wake-up call for us that we suddenly discovered there's all these thousands of people out there that we didn't realise would be interested in praying or worshipping or exploring faith. We just didn't realise. But now that it's been made more accessible for them, it's a real chance for us to look after them and serve them. So I think those are some of the sort of well-being things. And then, of course, we've learned that the government can do all sorts of things. Who knew that the government would be able to provide homes, even though they're temporary homes for homeless people? I never thought that would be possible. So all sorts of things have come out of the woodwork, and some of the amazing things technology can do, lots of things.
Yeah, there's a chance for some really good legacies.
Yeah. I hope we take hold of them.
Absolutely, completely agree with you. Rhiannon, thank you so much for your thoughts about this and for sharing them with me. Thank you.
Pleasure.